welcome back. So what we want to work on this time is actually doing sign-in. So this is kind of the heart of this app. So right now when you click on the login button, it does a console message, which is great. So if I bring up my console here, you can see it saying to do, sign in with Rosefire. Let's do it, right? So we've got to learn a little bit more about Rosefire. So go ahead and open up a new tab, and you're going to have to go into ada/Rosefire. And then mine's auto-completing. You can go and type in the rest of this as well. So go ahead and visit this URL. I'll put the link above the video as well. So ada.csse.roseholman.edu/Rosefire/JavaScript Sdk. So Rosefire, what is it? Rosefire is a suite of software tools that lets you do Rosholman sign-in. It lets you use the Rosholman Authentication system, and you can use it in iOS apps, Android apps, websites, and you can even use it in websites that use Angular. And so that's what we're doing this time. So there's a number of different projects that are part of Rosefire, but the one that we care about is the JavaScript Sdk. And the reason that this one is important is because this has like the setup instructions. So there's a lot of setup instructions in here for different platforms. And the one we care about is the one that says Angular and TypeScript support. I guess it still says Angular 2, whereas we're really on Angular 4 or higher soon, right? And so this is the link that I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this link. And then this link is I want to make a bookmark to it. And I'm of course going to want to put this into my ng Fire area, and I'm going to call this Rosefire Docs. And so this is to help you get set up with Rosefire. This section of the doc is specific to this area, and there's some general steps that aren't shown here. They're shown in other places, but this is the important stuff for us. So the first thing it says, if you want to use this tool, is you have to do an Npm install. Seems like we do an Npm install for like every tool. And so we take this, and I've lost my other tab, and we paste it in. It's pretty long, so I'll make this bigger. And we do an Npm install of this. And so that's the first step. The next step is usually you add things into your app module.ts, but the way that this is set up is that you add something into your Angular CLI.json. By the way, I should give credit for who made this. So this was all done by one guy. So this is Tyler Rockwood. So he's a graduate from, I don't know, 2015 maybe. Works at Google now, extremely sharp guy. And he took it as his personal mission to make a tool that any Rosholman student could use in their own project that does Rosholman sign-in. And it's just a really valuable tool. So in order to follow his follow-along instructions, we're going to need to go into the Angular CLI. We're going to have to go into this area called scripts, which currently has nothing, and we're going to need to paste in this script to use. So this says, from this location, go back one folder and then go into node modules. From node modules, go into the Rosefire area, the dist folder, and go into the JavaScript and use this Rosefire min. So now you've got access to the JavaScript for Rosefire, the minified version. And then what you can do from there is you can import Rosefire into your file. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Oh, by the way, I changed the Angular CLI, and anytime you change the Angular CLI, you should stop serving. So I just did a Control-C to stop serving, and then an ng-serve to restart serving. Just anytime you change the Angular CLI, you should always plan to do that step. All right, so what I want to do is I want to go into the sign-in component. And what I want to do in here is I want to do some of my Rosefire sign-in stuff here. So it says in the instructions that I need to copy in this statement, so import Rosefire. By doing that, I've now got access to the Rosefire API, so that's pretty easy. And then what it says to do is once you've set up Angular Fire 2 according to their documentation, so we've already done that setup, you can use it in conjunction with Rosefire. So you have to, in your constructor, do dependency injection to get the Angular Fire auth object. So here's my constructor, so I'll paste that in. It says I don't know where that comes from, and it comes from Angular Fire 2 auth. Easy peasy. Next, it says that here are the steps to do sign-in. it's kind of like hanging out outside of any function, but I'm just going to copy this whole thing and I'm going to put it inside my callback function. So it says to do sign in with Rosefire, and I'm going to put this other stuff in as well. So there is some setup. And one of the most important setups is you can see that just like Firebase needed some configuration things, Rosefire needs some configuration things as well. And these steps aren't really shown in the link that I've given you right now. They're things that if you know how to use Rosefire, you can figure out. You could also go to Rosefire and look for other APIs. And this, the main one, this is the actual code for Rosefire. I believe that it's got examples in here about how to use it. And so it says, get a registry token, and then, skip to integrate with Firebase. You could follow all these steps. This is at Rosefire, but I'm just going to walk through them with you. And so the first thing you need to do is you need to go to rosefire.csse.rolesholman.edu, and this is worth making a link to as well. So we'll just call it Rosefire. Done. So now I've got bookmarks to the Rosefire docs and then also the Rosefire website, which is where we're at right here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit just because in my video it's kind of like a little too small. So we'll probably change this look someday, but it'll still be the basic concept. So you need to sign in to get started. So you need to verify that you're a Rolesholman person. So you need to have a Rolesholman username and Rolesholman password. So you just click on verify and then you're verified. The UI could be better. I get that. It's on my to-do list, right? The next is, do you want to accept the defaults? Yeah, the defaults are all fine. And then it says, are you using Firebase? Yes or no. We are using Firebase, so we leave it as yes. And then it says that we need to upload a credentials file. And you're like, what the heck is that, right? But a credential file is something that you get from the Firebase console. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up a new tab over here and go to the Firebase console. And so I'm going to go to my password keeper app. And what I need to do is I need to get a credentials file. And so you're like, how on earth do I get a credentials file? And so if we go into this gear icon, we can go into this users and permissions area. This users and permissions area is managed on the Google Cloud Console, so it's going to kind of like look different when I click that button. When you come over here, make sure it's still got, password keeper enabled. It should have. And what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to add a service account. So we're over in the permissions area. We're in the service accounts area. And we're going to say create new service account. And so we're going to create a service account for Rosefire. And we're going to check the box that says furnish a new private key. I've already got a service account named Rosefire, so I probably need to create a different name, but I'm going to try it anyway. So I'm going to say create, and it said, yeah, I've already used that name, so yeah, fine. I saw that one coming. So I'm going to call it Rosefire, I don't care, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's just because I've done this numerous times, and I just had to add some more gibberish here. Don't add gibberish for yours. Once you click on generate, it's going to have you download this file. And you can keep this file anywhere you want. I'm going to choose to put it into my Git folder for password keeper. And then that way that it will actually get checked in to my Git repository. Tyler would hate me for doing that, by the way, because he sees this as like a very secret file that you want to keep safe. And so you would never check it into like a public repository. But I'm genuinely not as worried about it. I'm not a security guy. I just kind of figure out how to make things work. So now I've got that file. What I need to do with that file is I need to send it over to Rosefire. So I'm going to say choose file, and I'm going to go into my Git repository, and here's that file. That file, if you want to look at it, it's a JSON file. It's got some information in it. One of the things it's got is a private key, and the private key is what's being used here. So there's my private key, and I'm going to click on generate. Once I generate this thing, what I've generated is what's called a registry token. These steps are kind of complex. I could go really slow and talk about each of them, but to be honest, I think that you're better off just doing it a couple times and just getting a feel for it. And you can just follow these steps, right? So I'm going to copy my registry token, And that is something that I'm going to put into my environments, just like I did with the Firebase stuff. So I have my Firebase config area there, and then I'm going to say I've got a Rosefire registry token. And my Rosefire registry token is just a string, and so I'm just going to paste in my Rosefire registry token. I'm going to just use the same registry token for my dev area and then also for my prod area, and that'll just make my life easier. Cool, so there I've got a Rosefire registry token, and I'm ready to pick back up with the code. So it says over here, environment. I don't know what you're talking about, environment. Let's bring in environment. You want to bring in the top one. If you were to say prod, it might do prod all the time, whereas this one's going to choose the right one depending on what's going on. And it says registry token. I don't know what you mean. That's because I called it Rosefire registry token. So now I think we're ready to kind of look at these lines a little bit more. So right now it says to do sign in with Rosefire. I'm going to take that one off, that console log, because I'm doing it now. And I'm going to see what's going on here. So I'm going to call Rosefire, which is something that's built in from that library brought in. He knows how to do a task called sign in. In order to sign in, he needs a string. He needs the registry token. So that's like, you know, your connection with Rosefire to prove that you are the developer that you say you are. And then what it does is it has a callback. So you passed in a fat arrow function. And this callback has two things. It's got an error if there's an error. So if there's an error, we just do a console.error of the error, and we just return, like, you know, something went horribly wrong. Hopefully you never see that, but you know, errors happen. And then the other thing is that it might give you an RF user. That stands for Rosefire user, and you can see it's a Rosefire user object. And so what I want to do is I just want to print out that Rosefire user object. So this is Rosefire is done, and then user. And I'm just going to do RF user, just so I can kind of see like who just signed in there. And then the interesting thing you do is you take that token and you send it to Firebase, which is kind of neat. So Firebase, you actually sign in with Firebase. Let me just kind of talk about signing in with Firebase. Firebase has a lot of authentication options. So you can sign in with email password. You can sign in with a phone, which is kind of a neat thing. I'm going to have to make a video about signing in with your phone number. They announced that recently at I/O. Google, Facebook, Twitter, GitHub, anonymous. And then the other thing you could do is you could do a custom token. So it's funny that it's not even listed here, but it's another sign-in method you could do where you get a token from somewhere else and you pass that token to Firebase, and Tyler has figured out how to make it all work. Another thing you can do, this is just kind of an optional thing, is after you sign in with Firebase, it actually is a promise. And a promise is something that you can pass a then to. And so a then is like it calls a fat arrow function. So I'm going to pass in a fat arrow function here. And the then passes you information back. So I think what it passes you back is it passes you in an auth state. And I'm just going to do a CLG here that says Firebase sign in is done now too. And I'll just go ahead and say user, and then this is the Firebase auth state. So we're going to get like information from Rosefire and then information from Firebase if this all works. So let's give it a shot and see if anything happens. Hopefully a bunch of stuff happens. So I'm going to go back over to my app, which is this tab right here. And now I'm going to click on Rosefire sign in, and you can see that stuff happened. What happened is it opened up a new tab, and it brought me to a Rosefire sign in page. You'll have to type in your Rosefire credentials. I've got mine to where it's remembering them, which is really handy for me. And I'm going to hit sign in. Once you finish sign in, it brings you back to your app, and then it prints our messages, right? So it said Rosefire sign in is done. And it gave me information about my user object from Rosefire. So it said my email address was fisherds@Rosefire. My group is I'm an instructor, so it says either instructor or student. My name is David Fisher, and then here's my giant token that I need to send to Firebase. And my username is fisherds, which you probably could have guessed from the email. I use that token to sign in with Firebase. And then Firebase is done, and then it sent me back some information as well. To be honest, I really don't care about most of the information in here other than the UID. So this UID is my unique identifier with Firebase, and I know that I'm signed in. So this is cool. So sign in totally just worked. It wasn't very exciting, right? It didn't feel like a lot happened, but I'm now signed into the app, and I know it kind of looks the same. Let's do just a little bit more so that we can sign out, and then we'll kind of cut this video off. So our goal for sign out is that we want a hamburger up here that you can click on, and then you can sign out. So you can kind of sign in and sign out. So right now I'm signed in and I have no way of signing out. So let's go fix that. So where I'm going to do sign out from is I'm going to do that from the app component. So I'm going to go over to the apps component TS file. And right now I've got this function for sign out, but I don't really know how to do it. So here's what I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use dependency injection. So I'm going to say constructor. And this constructor, I want to have access to Angular Fire Auth. So AF Auth, which is an Angular Fire Auth object, which I can import from Angular Fire 2/auth. And what I want to do with this guy is I want to subscribe to him. So I'm going to say this.afauth .authState.subscribe. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass in a fat arrow function. And what this gives you is it gives you an auth state object, which you could also call a user object, your choice. And what it is it's a Firebase .user object. It's not wanting to autocomplete for me here because I need to do an import. And that import that I need to do, we've actually done it before. It's the Firebase import. Cool, and so now you can see that it's happy about that. And really, this user object, so if there's a user object, that means that sign in just happened. And then if there's not a user object, it means that somebody just signed out, right? So if there's a user object, then, sign in just happened. And so if sign in just happened, I want to set the, so I'm going to move this up to the top here. I want to set this dot show sign out. So they just signed in, so I want to set that to true. And then this case down here is sign out just happened. And I want to set this to false. The other thing we could do here is we could also print a little message that just says, sign in finished. And there's another spot over the other place where we also print this message. But that's kind of the neat thing is you can listen to this auth state from anywhere. So we've kind of got this sign in finished, sign out finished. Another thing we should do, and what the heck, I'll be good today, is whenever you subscribe to something, you should plan to unsubscribe from it. And one of the best things to do is to put things into on init and on destroy. And so I guess I really should have both on init and on destroy. And what you do is you typically do your subscriptions within on init. So you can see that it's mad that I don't have the appropriate methods. And then undo them within on destroy. So if I were to grab these guys, best practice kind of bums me out sometimes, but it's important to do. And so if I want to subscribe to this guy, I need to have a handle to him. So this is my auth state subscription, and it is of type subscription, which is going to be an import from RxJS, and this can be private. I don't need this in my HTML or anything. But what we do is we just say this dot auth state subscription is equal to that. So whenever you subscribe, it gives you a handle to it, and then within on destroy, you just say this dot auth state subscription equals unsubscribe. And if I was going to be really elegant, if I'm wanting them to be parallel, I should really have this be within ng on init, and then the destroy kind of mirroring it, right? So it kind of mirrors those two things. Cool. The other thing that I want to do really super quick is I want to implement sign out. And sign out is just this.afauth .auth.signout. And then that'll do sign out. All right, so let's give this a shot. So we're subscribing to these changes. We're unsubscribing as appropriate. Unsubscribing, by the way, is not really necessary in this case because I'm in the app component, but I want to get in the habit of best practice. So that's what I'm doing there. All right, let's give this a shot. So first thing you'll notice is that the app finished launching while I was talking, and it says sign in finished. And you'll notice that I've actually got an icon up here. And that's because sign in is sticky, and I signed in last time, and even if I refresh the page, Firebase does a good job of keeping you signed in, which is really neat. And if I click on sign out, it says sign out finished, and you'll notice that this thing goes away. Also, if I were to go over to the main page, you would see that it has no icon over here. The main page, the only problem with it is that it doesn't have a way to sign in. So now if I click sign in, I sign in right here. You can see I got my Rosefire is done, Firebase is done, and then it says sign in finished, and I've got my little sign out thing here too. It's interesting that sign out happens in the app component, so I can actually sign out from this page, which is kind of neat. So I can say sign out from over here, and it says sign out finished, and it's gone there. Cool, so this is Rosefire sign in, really powerful tool. It was amazing the last time I taught this class how many projects use Rosefire sign in. It was I think it may have been all of them, right? It was really a powerful tool for signing in. Next time we'll come back, we'll do some automatic navigation between these two routes, but this is kind of the core of what this unit is all about. All right, see you next time. Bye.